we stopped talking about all the different types of pyramids and how everything as you go up the food chain changes. Okay? Energy changes, mass changes, the number of organisms change. Alright? All of this and everything in life, biology, comes in cycles. Okay? Why do we have to have cycles? What is a cycle? Anybody know? Where's the word come from? Circle. All right? Means that everything starts and it's going to come back to where it started from. Okay? Why do organisms have to die? And so we can put things back so that other organisms can do the same thing. Okay? Matter cycles in and out of an ecosystem. And we said matter, that's the stuff that's there. Alright. It could be anything from water to organic matter, life, alright, nitrogen, other elements. Everything cycles through an ecosystem. First one's a water cycle. This is the easy one. You've seen this one before. I guarantee that. We also call it the hydrologic cycle. What's hydro mean? Water. Okay, anytime you see hydro, it's water. Most of these words you should be familiar with. All right, what's evaporation? Changing water to changing water to water vapor, which is a gas. Condensation is when that gas changes back into a liquid form. It's what makes clouds. All right. Precipitation is when it falls back to the earth. Doesn't matter what form it is.
It did the thing where the...
Is snow precipitation? Yes, is hail precipitation. Any form of water coming back to the earth is precipitation. Okay? You know what lakes and streams and rivers are? We have groundwater. That's where our drinking water comes from. Think about that. Every bit of water you drink came out of the ground. Not on top, but down in the ground. All right. Why would that be better water than drinking lake water? When that water goes underground, it goes through all different layers of rocks and things like that, and those rocks do what to that water? Yeah, they filter it. It's natural filters. All right. Nope. Rainwater is acidic. All right. Transpiration, and you'll learn this later when we talk about plants more in depth. Transpiration is like plants sweating. It's when plants give off water. All right. When water comes out of the plant, it gets too hot, the plant releases water. Just like when it gets too hot, you release water. All right. It's similar to plants sweating. It's similar to us sweating. That's transpiration. All right. We have several what we call biogeochemical cycles. Life, geology, earth, chemicals. Chemicals in the earth that are required for life. All right. First one's the oxygen cycle. Once again, you've heard this, whether you've heard it as a cycle or not, you've heard it. Plants do photosynthesis and make what? Oxygen and? Oxygen and? Sugar, glucose. I know I heard that a couple times. That oxygen gets taken in by animals, not just humans, but all animals, through respiration.
Carbon dioxide.
And then we release carbon dioxide and
Carbon monoxide.
water. Carbon dioxide and water, which the plant needs. Right? Everything cycles back through. If we didn't have plants, would animals survive?
No.
If we didn't have animals, would plants survive? No, it's a cycle. It has to happen that way. That's why we're all here. Okay. The carbon cycle. Carbon is a necessity for life. Okay? If you've ever watched sci-fi movies and they talk about carbon-based life forms, You are a carbon-based life form. You are made of carbon. If we didn't have carbon, would you exist? No. Funny fact about carbon, while I'm talking about it. I know what protons, neutrons, and electrons are. Learned that last year.
Oh yeah,
Carbon, all right, is number 6 on the periodic table. It has a mass of 12.011, which means how many protons, neutrons, electrons does it have? 6 protons, 6 electrons. 12 minus 6.
666.
And we're all made of that.
Oh wow.
Funny fact about carbon. All right, carbon is put into the ecosystem through several different ways. Main one is burning fossil fuels. All right. We need carbon, but we burn those things too fast, which we do. We use them fast. We put a lot of other things into the ecosystem as well, but the carbon is needed. Okay? So through combustion, burning those fossil fuels, we release carbon dioxide in the air. Plants need that carbon dioxide. They change it into other things. We have carbon in the ground. All right, dead organisms. They're made of what? They're made of carbon. When they get broken down and decomposed, they put carbon back into the planet, which makes fossil fuels, which we burn. All right? How, makes sense how we get fossil fuels? Fossil fuels like gas and oil and all these things that we did pull out of the ground are from dead organisms. All right? Things don't die, we don't have that. Some carbon can be stored, and this is, we have a lot of these on this planet, can be stored in what we call carbon sinks. There are places where you have a lot of carbon, and it's just it builds up there. We don't pull it out of the ground. All right? Like we have oil and gas and everything under the ground. We know where those pockets are. We also have carbon pockets. Okay? It's part of the makeup of our planet. All right? We have enough oil underneath this country, to take care of us for hundreds of years. Do we mine it? Do we pump it out of the ground? No, it's against the law. It's against the law to drill for oil in the continental United States. Because what do we want to do with that oil?
Trade it.
We save it. What oil do we use?
We steal it.
We buy oil from everybody else. They use up all theirs. And then when it comes time and we're the only ones with oil left, who's got the upper hand? That's how America works. All right. Third cycle, nitrogen cycle. This one is the most complex because there's a lot of things going on. All right. There's a lot of different forms of nitrogen. Okay. Majority of this takes place underground, even though we do have nitrogen in the atmosphere. You breathe in nitrogen along with oxygen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen. You breathe in a lot of different things, but the majority of the nitrogen we have on this planet is underground. All right. Bacteria play a big role in this cycle. We call them nitrogen-fixing bacteria, which means they turn the nitrogen that's in the ground into something that plants, animals, other things can use. Normal nitrogen found in the ground is an usable form. That's nitrate. Nitrites are bad for you. Okay. We have fertilizers. Fertilizer has ammonium nitrate in it. It's to put more back in the ground when things get used up. Okay. These bacteria make sure that that nitrogen is in a form that plants can use or other organisms can use. All right. All of this happening underground constantly. Okay. Make sense? Last one's phosphorus. Where this comes from? Rocks. All right. Those abiotic factors that we think don't have any effect on us, they do. When rocks weather, anybody know what that means? You set a rock outside, and over the course of years and years and years, that rock is going to eventually disappear. All right? Through rain and sun and wind and everything else, all the natural factors, that rock's going to break down. Inside that rock is phosphorus. That's what rocks are, the main component of the rocks, phosphorus. We need that for growth. We need that for plant growth. All right? Also, we call this is the same stuff that's in ash. Like once you burn something in your fireplace, so you got all that gray, nasty stuff in there. That's a great fertilizer. We always take that and pour it on the flower beds afterwards. We save it for the spring, pour it on flower beds, and then water it in. Because it's phosphorus. All right? Plants love it. They have to have it. It makes them grow better. Okay? Moves through the ecosystem. It can be through be decomposed plants and animals. Contain phosphorus. Mainly comes from rocks. But we have a couple different sources. All right? It gets pushed through and moved on by water, wind, and rain, things like that. All right. In order for everything to work great, all these cycles have to work great. Does that always happen? Can things mess this up? Yeah, us, mainly. Okay? But we have some other things. Natural disasters, natural disruptions. If you have a volcano erupt, is it going to change everything? Yes, it changes everything. When we get to later on the succession, and later on this week, you'll see how these natural disruptions change the entire area. So volcanoes, forest fires, landslides, earthquakes, and then, like I said, us. We are a natural disruption to the process. Okay? Two main ways we do that. Burning fossil fuels, been told that for years. All right, we are destroying the planet. Part of it. Poor farming practices. Anybody ever got any relatives that farm? Like plant crops, grow, harvest. You're not supposed to plant the same crop in the same field for so many years in a row because that pulls out all the nutrients, certain nutrients and not others. You're supposed to rotate crops. Or you're supposed to put the stuff back with certain fertilizers. Well, if farmers don't do that because of lack of funds or whatever, it changes the landscape, changes the ecosystem. All right? Because it pulls out all those resources that we have to have for life to exist. All right? In these areas, with these, we have two things that every organism has to have. Every organism has a habitat that it lives in. All right? The habitat is everything so that surrounds that organism, biotic and abiotic. So in this picture, could be we were looking at one fish, one specific fish. He's got other fish that live by him. He's got other living organisms. He's got rocks. He's got water. There's plants in there. All of that stuff is his habitat. Okay. Does he have to be suited for that habitat to live there? Yes. If this is the ocean, and I took a largemouth bass from Lake Conroe, and throw it out here, what's going to happen? He's going to die. Why? He will. He is not suited for that environment, for that habitat. All right? Freshwater, saltwater. Big difference. Right? Within that habitat, every organism has a niche. That's what this word is right here. Some people might say niche. I say niche. All right? Includes all the factors that a species needs to survive, stay healthy, and reproduce. All right? What's this squirrel need to maintain life? He needs a place to live, so he needs some trees, or else something else is going to eat him. He needs a food source. All right? Mostly squirrels eat some sort of nut or legume. All right? And then he needs a certain conditions, certain temperature to survive in. We can take that squirrel that lives here, maybe here in Texas somewhere, needs trees, tall trees to live in, needs food source. We could take him to Alaska. They got tall trees, they got nuts and legumes. Will he survive there?
No.
Why not? Because the conditions are different. Even though he's got food, he's got a place to live, he can reproduce, but that environment's not suited for him. Okay? It's kind of like bringing a polar bear to Texas. Will they survive? Only in a zoo where we can control conditions. If I turned him out loose, what would happen? He's going to die. All right? He's not suited for this condition. Species can share habitats. That's common sense. Is that squirrel the only thing that lives in that tree?
No.
Probably not. Okay? And they share resources. Most of the time, it's not sharing. It's that next word.
Competition.
They compete for those resources. Okay? Strong survive, the weak will die. Competition. Okay? So, we have different forms of things that happen between organisms. That seal ain't gonna make it. He ain't gonna make it. Okay? I can tell you, no matter what, is that seal gonna be able to fight off that shark? He can run, that's about it, and swim. That's all he can do. He has no defense against that organism. So we have different relationships between organisms. Okay? We're going to have competition here. Even in this picture, we have competition. What's going to be competing here? There's going to be competition between the sharks for that food source. Because it ain't going to try. The seal's not competing with the shark because he can't. Okay? Predation. Anybody know what predation means? If you're a predator.
When one organism captures and eats another.
Well, that's the book definition. Hunt and kill. Hunt, kill, and eat. All right. Is this shark a predator?
Yes.
Yes. He hunts. He kills. He eats. He's a predator. Okay. All this leads to symbiosis. Symbiosis is a relationship between organisms, and there's 3 types that we're going to talk about today. All right. We've talked about that word symbiosis before. It came up last semester. This is a relationship between 2 organisms. Do these 2 have a relationship?
Yeah.
Yeah. It ain't one the seal likes, but it's a relationship. Okay. It still is that. So the first one, mutualism. Everybody's happy. Everybody gets something good out of this relationship. Okay? You say the feeling is mutual. What's that mean? It means you share the same thoughts as the other person. Alright? These 2 organisms share what they're doing. They want to be together because it helps each other. So we got this example here. We got this cow and we got this egret, a cowbird. Anybody know what that egret does?
Eats the bugs.
Yeah, he sits on the back of the cow and eats all the bugs off the cow. All right. Does that help the egret?
Yeah.
How?
He gets food.
He gets food. Does it help the cow?
Yeah.
Why?
Bugs
It gets all the bugs that carry disease off of him. Okay? So both of these benefit from this relationship. They both get something out of it. You take the bird out of there and the bird and the cow are separate. Do either one get anything? No, the bird doesn't get food. The cow doesn't get help getting the insects off. Okay? The second one is commensalism. Commensalism is when one organism benefits and nothing happens to the other one. All right? So it's one organism helping out another one and getting nothing in return. So our example here, these are, you see these little round looking things right here? These are called eyelash mites. This is an eyelash. This is a blown up picture of a human eyelash. Around your eyelashes, you have these little creatures that live called eyelash mites. Right? They feed on like dead skin and dead things on your eyes. If you get any bad stuff on your eyelids, they eat it. All right. Do we get anything out of it? No, they don't do anything for us. But do they get something? They get a home and they get food. All right. How many of you want to rub your eye right now? Just imagine. After a while, when you feel something like you're itching on your eye, be like, oh, the mites crawling around. You're going to be rubbing your eyes for a while. Every time you think about biology day, you'll be like, man. The third one, parasitism. What's a parasite? What's a parasite? Not necessarily. Maybe, but not necessarily. Parasite's an organism that basically eats another organism. Can it kill them? Yes. Does it? Sometimes, sometimes not. Okay. Our example here, both of these are the same example. A hornworm, that's what this little green guy is. He's a hornworm. Okay. When they are in caterpillar form, there's a certain species of wasp, braconids, that will lay their eggs on that worm. Why would they want to lay their eggs on the worm?
So it can go into the worm and then kill it.
No. It's a food source. As those larvae, those eggs, start to hatch, what do they do to that worm? They eat it. They eat it alive. Okay?
The worm is basically a baby.
The worm is a moving chunk of meat to those larvae. Okay? Does the worm get anything out of this? Does he get hurt? Yeah. Does the wasp larvae get anything out of this? Yeah, they get a food source when they hatch. Okay? This is parasitism. What's another example of parasitism? Easy example. Fleas and ticks on dogs and cats. Those are parasites. Do they hurt the animal? Yeah. Do they get something from the animal? Yeah, they get food. Their food is blood. Mosquitoes are parasites. They get on us. They hurt us, but they get food out of it. They get blood. Okay? Make sense? Questions about the patterns? All right, we're going to go ahead and get a little bit more. All right, so all of these things we've discussed with relationships leads us to this. Growth patterns. Okay? You have certain relationships that are good, certain relationships that are bad. They all affect how many organisms are in a certain area. Okay? We got several ways populations can change. Immigration, that means things moving in. It's got the I in the front. Birth means organisms reproduce. That brings new organisms into a population. The other immigration starts with an E, means things are pushed out. And then, of course, death, organisms leave. Okay, so those four are our ways populations change. So, for over here, we got this first little graph. We have a certain population, and now we have a lot more. What could have happened? What could have happened to this smaller population to make it grow that big? Reproduction? That works. If half of these were female organisms, they could have all had babies, and bam, we got a bigger population instantly. What else could have happened? Something could have happened in a neighboring ecosystem that made organisms move. Now they've moved into this one. So that made the population grow higher. Okay. Just an example there. Population density, number of individuals that live in a defined area. If the population density is too high, what's going to happen? If you have, think about this room right now. We got a decent spatial awareness in here with humans. But if I put 3 times as many humans in here and made this population even more dense, what would happen? Would it be comfortable? No. Eventually, if you were trapped in here with 60 or 70 other people, eventually what's going to happen? Are you going to want to be around all those other people? No, things are going to start to happen. If there was a limited amount of food in here, what would happen? Some people would die of starvation. Some people would start to compete with others for food. All right? Things change as the population gets denser. All right? This last drawing down here is population dispersion, how organisms are dispersed. Okay? If you look at this room right now, organisms in here, humans, are you clumped, uniform, or random?
Uniform. You're clumped? Oh, wait.
Think about the desks. Are you clumped, uniform, or random? You're clumped. You're clumped in a specific group. Does that mean the group is the same size? No. But you're clumped. You're clumped in 8 groups. If we were uniform, that's when you have rows of chairs. All right? And everybody's sitting in a specific spot. You're equal distance from everybody else. That's uniform. Random would mean we take all the chairs and tables out of here and you just get to sit wherever you want. That's random. Okay? Different environments lend to different things. This clumped environment, say right between here, say this was 2 different populations of deer, and there's a huge mountain ridge that goes right through here. Are they going to be able to be uniform or random? No, because they're separated by a barrier. They have to clump, because that's the only thing they can do. They can't live on the top of that mountain range, so they have to stay where they can live. All right? This could be a prairie somewhere. Think about Africa. You got the plains in Africa, and you got lions. Are lions going to want to live clumped? Are all these male lions going to want to live together? No. They're going to spread out. Okay? They're going to start uniform, and they're going to turn to random. Okay? Does how the populations are dispersed, does it affect the ecosystem? Think about that clumped versus that uniform. Think about your resources. Are resources in the clumped going to be the same as if you're uniform? The resources are getting used at a similar rate by everybody. This area right here, all the resources are getting used up fast because there's a lot of organisms. Okay, so it affects how organisms are dispersed affects the environment and the ecosystem. And that is based on resources. Okay. So we got some graphs here. You need to know what the graphs look like. All right. Exponential growth on the left. Exponential means a rapid population increase, all right, due to abundance of resources. If there are a lot of resources in the area, the organisms will survive, they will reproduce, because that is the goal of all living things. The main goal of living things is to reproduce. Okay? So you're going to see a very large and quick increase in number of population. Now once you hit a certain mark called carrying capacity, that's going to level off or it's going to decrease. Okay? Carrying capacity is how many organisms can live in that environment based on the resources. All right, so we got this huge population increase, and all of a sudden resources become scarce. What's going to happen to that population? Are they all going to survive? No. So you're going to see a leveling off, and then you'll see a drop. Okay. Logistic growth. Logistic growth is when you have limited resources. It's going to gradually grow until it reaches that carrying capacity and then stop. All right. Funny thing about most living organisms other than humans, when they reach a certain point that they know resources aren't available, they don't reproduce anymore. They'll stop. Okay. For instance, deer, they will reach a certain point. If there's too many deer in a given area, they won't reproduce. They'll still reproduce some, but it won't be as normal. Okay? Because they can sense that there's not enough food. They can sense that there's not enough resources. And so do they want to bring another child into the world and know that it's not going to survive? All right? Humans, we don't worry about that because we take from everybody else. We take what resources we need. Okay? Because we are the top of the food chain when it comes to animals and organisms. Make sense? All right, so we're going to stop there today.